Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Keri Warnick with Multi-Region Purchasing Cooperative out of Region 10 Education Service Center, and welcome to the last final session of the Food Service View. So I've got a great group of panelists this morning, and before I do introductions for the attendees, just want to throw out a few reminders that you are in listen-only mode, and if you have a question you would like to ask a specific panelist or even the group, please use the Q&A panel. I have Elizabeth Gonzalez, my commodity specialist, managing the Q&A panel. The chat panel is also open if you want to hold conversation there. The panelists are obviously engaging in conversation today, but they have got the chat panel open. So if something pops up over there for them, that's for them to answer if they have time. But anything specific, a question that any panelists can answer, please use the Q&A panel. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started and introduce everyone this morning. And I'm going to start with Ashley Foy with Brookwood Farms. Good morning, Ashley. Working on her mic there. Hi, good morning. I've got Catherine Bridgman with Shearer Foods.
Good morning.
And then was Tom, I guess Tom did not join us this morning, Catherine, just you?
He's actually in an area where his internet is questionable. So okay. He might be viewing, but I don't know that his audio and video will work.
Okay, no worries. And then with Perdue Farms, I've got Lisa Chasick.
Good morning, everybody.
Laura Wisdom with Rich Products.
Good morning.
Then I've got Donetta Miller with Rich Chicks.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Donetta. And then Dan Olson with Cloverdale Foods.
Good morning.
Morning, Dan. Then I've got Mara Fulton with Sysco North Texas.
Hello.
And then I've got Nikki P with Pactiv. I did not want to mess up her last name.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks, Nikki. And then I've got Valerie Byrne with Asian Food Solutions.
Good morning.
And I've got Steve Atchison with Jennie-O Turkey.
Good morning, everybody.
And Courtney Strom and Elizabeth Hawes with Klement Vending.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. I think we're going to have a great conversation. As I mentioned, and in previous sessions, I've got about 6 initial questions I'm going to ask each of the panelists, and any of the panelists can chime in if they have a comment or insight to the question asked, and it'll be just kind of random. And then once we get through the initial questions, I've got a few company-specific questions directed at several of the panelists, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to kind of go down my list. I'm going to start with Ashley with Brookwood Farms. So Ashley, please describe for us some of the changes your company implemented due to COVID.
Yeah, Keri, Ashley with Brookwood. So we've had several changes that we've implemented from the start of COVID. First and foremost, with employee safety. So we did implement additional, sanitation stations, temp checks, mandatory masks. We're in North Carolina, so we have mandatory masks in public anyway. But we've had mandatory masks at our facility for several weeks now. So definitely staying on track with employee safety. For us in the sales side of things, we do have travel advisories. So that, is kind of structured depending on your territory and the regulations there. So we've made some changes when it comes to, creative communication and, these great video webinars and sessions. And we're working to have some more virtual resources for clients, this fall and the end of the summer, because I don't know when the next time I'm going to see all you guys face to face. So definitely trying to, put ourselves ahead of the ball there. And then lastly, with production, we have seen some changes with production. Our company is structured in food service, K-12, and retail. So when COVID hit, a lot of our production shifted over to retail since we are a bulk processor. So those are some of the changes that we've seen so far.
Great, thank you. And I think we're starting to hear more and more about travel advisories, and especially, the whole New York thing. Coming from Texas, not a good thing. New York does not like Texas right now. Thank you, Ashley. So I'm going to move to Catherine Bridgman with Shearer Foods. Same question, Catherine. What changes did your company implement, if anything different maybe from what Ashley has described?
Very similar to what Ashley described. All of our manufacturing for food service actually comes from our Minnesota manufacturing plant. Shearer's actually has 10 manufacturing plants across the nation, but all of our food service item comes from Minnesota. So same type of things. Purchase of PPE, everyone needs to use PPE. We actually stagger our employee groups. We put everybody into teams or pods so they will all enter and exit at the same time to reduce. Moved our production facility around so folks aren't standing next to each other, that there's at least 6 feet. And as trivia, which I love, our QA department, since we are in Minnesota and we're in upper Minnesota, about 3 hours north of the Twin Cities, everybody was instructed to keep 1 cow length apart, because a cow is in general 6 feet. Good trivia, right? So that
I love that.
Who knew? They actually, in the entrance when you come in the building, they show a person, a dairy cow, a person. So it really gives people an idea of how long is 6 feet. So
that's great.
A lot of focus on our employees. Our employees have been very safe. We've been very lucky because we know that things are opening up and people are spending more time outside of their homes, as well as, the safety of their work environment. Exactly as earlier indicated, we also are on travel restriction, making sure that all of us sales folks are safe, as well as working safely with our customers, be it, our schools or our distributors, doing a lot of Zoom calls as well. The big change for us has been that we are now offering all of our K-12 items during the summer. We normally, during our summer months, see such a decline in volume. We literally turn some of them off, that we don't have enough to run a production minimum, which is about 1,000 pounds, which is quite a bit of volume, but it's only an hour's worth of production for us. So we kept all of our items on for the summer, just because we've seen such a variety of need for our K-12 and what are they doing. We've seen bulk going to family feeding and that to go kind of thing. We've seen a lot of increase in IW. In fact, the #1 seller in Texas, we've seen increase of over 400%.
So yeah, I would say US wide, that is the coveted, yes, products for sure.
Yeah, so IW small bag has been incredible. We actually have a weekly check with our purchasing team just to keep up on packaging, corrugate, all of those things. And so we've been trying to respond every time our schools and our co-ops and our folks reach out to us, that we're here for you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And there are so many things, where some companies were so injured by COVID and shut down, where other companies have just completely thrived because of the summer feeding programs. It's been a very interesting ride, for a variety of reasons. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Lisa Chasik with Perdue Farms. And the same question, was there anything different that Perdue Farms did in light of COVID for safety reasons?
Well, we did take a lot of precautionary methods that we implemented. First of all, masks were required everywhere. We took temperatures of all of the employees walking in to the facilities, and every time that they walked out, they had to, retake temperatures. We also put plexiglass partitions in between the employees that were not able to do the 6 feet distancing, so that way that they could still work on the line, but yet have physical barriers that, would hopefully stop some of the contamination and everything. Our plants worked. We do have clinics on plant facilities, so if an employee does feel ill, that they can go over to the clinics and be checked out. They don't have to clock out or anything, but, they can go over there and make sure that they're, well, what it is that they have. They could have testing for COVID-19 there as well. So we are taking care of all of our employees, as well as disinfecting all of the plants and everything. We've only had one plant that was, shut down for an extended amount, and that was over the weekend for additional cleaning. But we are cleaning all of our plants. We're basically all on the East Coast. So not so much on the West, but mainly East Coast. So a lot of that is in some areas where, COVID-19 is prevalent in that area.
Yes, just don't come to the South. The South is bad.
Oh no, but we have a lot up in that Connecticut, Delmarva area. So we're up there in that, kind of outside of New York-ish in that tri-state area up there as well.
Well, and as I listen to you talk about, and anyone else can chime in on this question as well, I think that we tend to forget the financial impact. Not only, could there have been impact on now products aren't moving or products are moving more quickly, but just the cost of preparing to be safe within your own facilities is huge, and it's just a sad situation, really. Did anyone else want to add to that? I mean, I think we kind of covered the gamut of some precautions that have been taken. Is anyone doing something different that you'd like to share? No? Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question. I want to start with Laura with Rich Products. So, Laura, maybe just give a little brief description of how all the changes that have been implemented within your company have possibly affected production, if they have at all.
Well, Rich's obviously has a very big presence in the retail market, so we have not seen a lot of disruption in production because of that. A lot of things have shifted to that. Obviously, we are not known as your IW company. We don't have a lot of IW items to offer, but what we do have, we have seen an increase in demand for those items, so we have obviously bumped those up. With regards to things like that, I think one of the things that we could talk about is forecasting and what we need to get for moving into the new school year. But that's, basically that, and we haven't seen a whole lot of disruption. Obviously, we have dough items that will have a shorter shelf life and things like that. But the things that we have seen demand in, we are trying to bump those forecasts. But we do need to get good forecasting for the fall to move forward so that we aren't shorting and that kind of thing.
I think everyone on this panel would agree with that statement. I think all of you guys are begging for forecasting, and I think the distributors.
And I would add to that. Don't just, for those districts, don't just give that forecast to the distributor. Share it with the manufacturers too, because we're your front line as to that information getting forward, so that we can make those items that are needed.
Yeah, and I'll let Maura chime in on that as well, as far as, talking about some of these changes in production, but as far as her being Sysco, Maura, I'm going to let you talk to that as well, because I'm sure they are collecting forecasting, and I'll let you kind of address that, Maura. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, because when school shut down as we know it in March, distributors were left with thousands and thousands and thousands of cases of product. So to talk about forecasting, we have to know, are you going to use what we currently have? We hope so. People just can't seem to be pinpointing what they want to use at this time. And you have to keep in mind that all the I speak for Sysco North Texas, but I think it's pretty much fair for all distributors that we've all got warehouses full of food that need to be used, and we are also going to all have to take a very conservative approach about what we purchase for back to school, because is it going to go, is it going to happen? Is it going to get shut? First of all, will it open? And second of all, will it shut down again? Because we can't be left with millions of dollars worth of groceries again.
Well, and I think that explains, to why we're seeing distributors definitely take that more conservative approach as to what they're willing to bring in. And one of my questions coming up is in regard to high volume products. So we'll get to that in a minute. But it is a problem, definitely. So I will go ahead and ask Dawnetta kind of the same question for Rich Chicks. You know, how has production been affected because of all this?
Yeah, Keri, unlike Laura for Rich Chicks, whose business is primarily K-12, and like other manufacturers, we had our orders canceled. So then USDA launched the Farmers to Family Food Box, and we saw that as an opportunity to support deserving families and send product into the hands of those who need it. It's been an impactful program, and in our proposal, we absolutely took into account K-12 forecasting needs, whatever that looks like in the fall, because as you know, we also sent out a survey to gauge interest in grab-and-go items, and we're looking at potentially a couple new wrapped items as well. So yeah, it did have an impact on us, and we are blessed to be part of that program, and we'll be prepared in whatever fashion fall looks like for our customers.
Right, and I think I don't know how many of you on the panel did participate in that program when it came out, because I think it did, you know, slight Band-Aid maybe on, you know, whatever was going on. Did anyone else want to speak to that question about production being affected? Yes, Valerie with Asian Food Solutions.
I really mainly just, you know, kind of will reiterate what Laura and Maura were saying. I mean, I think forecasting is probably what keeps coming up over and over on the calls. But I kind of think of it like if I found out somebody was going to drop in for dinner in an hour and I hadn't, you know, been to the grocery store or thawed whatever I was going to make, it just has so much impact, finding out ahead of time what people are going to use, particularly if you're shifting from, you know, bulk to individually wrapped products. Because to Maura's point, as far as our core items and our bulk, we've got plenty of inventory and distributors have inventory, and so it's all stocked up. But if there's a shift, we definitely need to know ahead of time and have created a form. Everyone loves forms, you know, so that people can communicate all that. So
surveys all over the place. No, it is true. I mean, I love that, you know, example. If someone's going to show up for dinner, give you an hour notice. I mean, you would be starving at my house. I'm just going to say, I'm a daily shopper. It is a terrible habit. I'd be a horrible food service director for that reason. But no, I think, you know, and that's why I've got Pactiv on the call today, because, you know, schools need to really think hard about, you know, utilizing available packaging and assembling their own box bundled meals or IW products, because as we've talked about previously in the sessions, you know, that not everyone's going to get that. And they do need to have that, and I say it every time, that plan A, B, and C in place. You know, be ready for anything at the drop of a dime, because we just don't know, you know. It's just like back in March, you went to work one day, the next day you didn't because your office was closed. I mean, just overnight. So I think we still need to be in that mindset. It could happen again. We just don't know what's coming. All right, great conversation. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my next question. I'm gonna call on Dan Olson with Cloverdale Foods and start this one out. Does Cloverdale have the ability to individually wrap products? And if you do, is that going to affect your production level, slow it down, or you know, slow the lead times?
Well, it's funny. That was like the perfect segue for me, because I'm fast, as we speak, I'm fast tracking a new item. What it's going to be is a low sodium all beef hot dog. We call it a wrap and roll in a 2 whole grain wrap that's individually wrapped. That'll meet 2 whole grains, 2 meats. It's ovenable and it's microwavable. So that's something that we're not a massively large company, and we like to think of ourselves as being somewhat nimble and trying to react to something quickly. And that's our answer, which should be ready in probably about a month. I got samples running next week, and I'll be working through Yvonne with Acosta to echo other people's voices. Usages is key, and to get some forecasting. And I might want to add that the thing that I've been hearing from Florida to Washington to California to the Midwest is effect. To echo Moira's concern with at the distributor level, yes, we as manufacturers know you got product there, but I may just want to add too that if your district's large enough, there is a direct basis too, especially on something like a new item, because there's a lot of moratoriums with distributors to not bring in new items. So I just wanted to add that. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. And it is tough. Texas is a very large state with a lot of small to medium-sized districts, and they do rely on their full-line grocery distributors such as Sysco. You know, it does make it difficult for some of them. And I do want go ahead and call on Steve Atchison with Jennie-O Turkey to address this question, because Jennie-O does a lot of bulk products, but has there been a shift in thinking and approach, and is that going to affect production levels?
Yeah, thank you, Steve Atchison with Jennie-O, and appreciate the question. Jennie-O only has the one item that is individually wrapped. It's our turkey snack sticks, which are popular, and the demand for that product has been real solid. But we have an innovation team going right now, which I'm a part of that innovation team, to get into the individually wrapped category. We're kind of taking some of our current products, maybe looking at pack size, making sure it meets the 2-meat alternative, getting it down to people to say, would you be able to use a smaller pack size individually wrapped for some of these meals, which they just don't know about. It might be in the classroom, it might be curbside, it might be going home, and would IW products be a benefit in any one of those 3 different serving areas. So yeah, we're really trying to get into that IW category with some of our current items. Will it affect our production? No, because we make those products anyway, and we could individually wrap them, vacuum pack them, and kind of turn on it fairly quickly. We're a deli lunch meat company a lot of times, and we make a lot of deli sandwiches, and people have asked us to get into the individually wrapped sandwich category. And I think that's a step up. That's a little bit longer process. That's something that may take us 6 months to accomplish, but we're looking into that as well.
I wondered about that, just understanding what your products are, if that was even something that's being entertained. So I wouldn't blame you. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I heard from. I'm just trying to make sure I'm hearing from everyone. So I'm going to move on to the 4th question, because this does apply to the few that I have not called on yet. And then if anyone else, do we have any questions? Let me stop here. Elizabeth, do we have any questions from the attendees for the panelists?
Yes, we have 2 questions.
Okay.
One's maybe more of a comment. They're concerned about the forecasting issue. So if they are trying to order product that they need as a back to school order, but they're being told that it's not available, or that it's a priority item, what should they do in that case when they can't get the product that they need? And then the second question is, would it be better?
Before you move on to that one, I'm kind of curious if the reason they're being told it's a priority or a special order product is maybe the volume is too low, and that distributor is, I guess, leery of bringing it in, maybe?
Yes, I'm not sure. Should we ask that that attendee?
I'm asking that back to the person that asked that question, just add a little more information. But go ahead and move on to the next one. We'll see what comes from that.
Okay, so the second question, would it be better for schools to use their spring menus to start school with? And if so, how would this affect our allocated foods that we forecasted prior to the shutdown?
Okay, I'll let any panelists answer to that question if you want. Yes, Mara with Sysco, go ahead.
I have talked to the schools, the customers that we have here in North Texas, and we have tried to encourage them to have the smallest amount of offerings, the smallest menu cycle, and yes, to use the products that you were using in the spring that we possibly have a warehouse full of still, so that your product will be available if and when school starts. There is one district that I think it's genius. I don't know if it's going to work. She plans to have one menu for K through 12. And she's a large school district. She's not small. Everybody's getting the same thing. She's having a 2-week cycle, and it is what it is. But it's
I love that, because that kids get a meal, and that is the goal, is to feed the kids, and it's temporary. We know this isn't, you know, for the next 10 years, we hope.
Right. Well, and she's willing to change in, you know, October if she can, but just to get things up and running, she's made it super simple.
Well, and I think we've been saying that all along. Downsize and simplify your menus. You know, don't try to run some special, you know, fancy menu. A lot of schools are going away from offer versus serve, and it is serve. This is the tray of food or the box of food, and this is what we're serving today. I mean, I think that's going to help everyone keep their sanity, honestly. You know, I know it would for me. Did anyone else have a comment about that? No? Okay. Oh, Lisa, yes, go ahead with Perdue.
I was going to say, still, forecasting is important. Even if they are going to use their spring menu, maybe the items that they had were, you know, fast moving, they were hot items. And maybe the distributor at this moment doesn't have a supply overage of it. And so therefore, we still need forecasting moving into the fall so that we do know what they are serving. For instance, I know there's a couple of us on here that deal in poultry. You just can't say, oh, well, we're going to make this. We have to grow the birds. We have to grow the product. There is a beef processor here as well. These take time to grow, so we need forecasting, so we know what we need to put out, you know, for growth, and, you know, where we're going and who's using what food. So forecasting is important, whether you're using your spring menu or whether you have a new menu.
Yes, thank you. And I would agree with that, you know, and I know many of you are probably sitting on overstocked products as well as understocked or deleted product, you know, because of COVID. It went both directions. So it was so crazy. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I'm calling a couple of other people with the next question. So the question is, are you concerned with any shortages in the raw materials to produce your products? And I'm gonna go ahead and start with Nikki with Pactiv. We are talking containers and plastics, and if you'd like to address that question, Nikki, go ahead.
Yes, thanks for the question, Keri. We have not experienced any shortages in raw materials. That's been probably one of the saving graces of going through this, is that in addition to everything else that's been going on, we haven't had to deal with that. The majority of Pactiv products are produced domestically. So, you know, all of our materials come from the US. And so that's really made things a lot easier as far as helping us continue to keep a quick lead time and, you know, anticipate the demands for everyone and produce enough product.
Great, thank you. And then I also want to call on Courtney or Elizabeth with Klement Vending. You know, Klement Vending, if many of you don't know, they do ice cream novelties, Hershey's ice cream. A lot of a la carte sales, which I know has probably been hit hard. And there's a lot of concern about that going into the new school year. So whichever one of you would like to speak to that, Courtney or Elizabeth?
Well, you know, the thing with ice cream, so we are individually wrapped products, but as you said, we do focus on all a la carte. So I'm wondering how that's going to go. But I guess the good thing is ice cream has an 18-month shelf life. So to all of our school districts out there, I don't want them to be worried about anything that they have on hand. It will be fine. But I might let Elizabeth speak more to the packaging, and that was your original question, since she is from.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth. Oh, you're still muted. I can see that. It's okay.
Sorry, hi. I'm Elizabeth with Hershey Ice Cream. I just kind of wanted to say that and reiterate what Courtney said is don't be afraid to order ice cream, whether it's from your distributor or from, you know, an individual person, because it does have a long shelf life. We want to help you generate revenue for you guys, because we know that that's one thing that you desperately need. We haven't had any issues with raw material, packaging, or anything like that. You know, that's one nice thing is everything is individually wrapped. So there's not a lot of labor or intensive anything like that. You know, we've got items that can not only generate funds, but can be put in your meal as well. So, you know, don't forget about those too as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right, anyone else want to chime in on that question before I move on? Okay, we're good. Excellent. Okay. Next question. What is your current situation with overstocked or depleted stock in products? And I will let anyone who wants to answer that. I think I've called on everyone at least once. And so if anyone has any input on that question, just raise your hand. Nobody wants to answer that question. Go ahead, Lisa. You can talk about the overstock product. That's all good. Well, or depleted products. And I'll tell you, this question comes out of my desire to work on real-time data going into the new school year with my distributor, as well as the manufacturers that are awarded on my contracts, because I think that real-time data is going to be extremely helpful for districts as they navigate the reopening of schools. You know, often schools will order something, they think it's been ordered 72 hours prior, or sometimes not. Maybe they, you know, there's a shortage to the distributor from the manufacturer, and now there's been a sub. So I think trying to work together to get that real-time data, as I've heard from other manufacturers in the past, like, well, we've got mounds of this product, but none of this one. Well, if the schools know that in enough time, or the distributors know that enough time, we know what to bring in. All right, I'll let you talk now, Lisa.
Thank you. Lisa Chasik with Perdue. First of all, I know that we have, you know, product that's, you know, was ordered for distributors. The distributors ordered it, you know, prior to the COVID-19. So I do know that these distributors are sitting on some product that need to be used. So I guess as far as a distributor aspect, it would be kind of like, you know, excess inventory that they've got there. But if you've got a couple of schools that are pulling that, it's going to go fast. Everything that we have is going to be, you know, bulk product. As far as excess inventory at Perdue, we have inventory, but not a lot of excess. We don't, actually, we were pretty fortunate not to have a whole lot of inventory that was sitting there for K-12. But a lot of our lines were moved over from food service over to retail because we had the influx of everybody going to the grocery store and buying meat and buying product. So we needed to help supply, you know, the retail section, and we have a very large, you know, claim in the retail and grocery store that we needed, you know, to do that. But my first concern is, you know, what inventory is sitting there at the distributors. Again, forecasting, we need to make sure, since we did move a lot of our lines over to, you know, retail products, we are moving those back over to food service. Right now, we have no issues with any of our lines or anything. We do have a customer that throughout the summer has been utilizing our snackatizers and depleted our inventory. And we're like, okay, wait, what's going on? And so working with them, you know, we were able to put it in production again before their next orders came out. But there we go. It's, you know, it's forecasting. So
right.
We're really pretty good, but again, it's working with those distributors, you know, on the inventory that they have in hand.
Right. And I'm going to get to Mara, but I know Steve is raising his hand with Jennie-O. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thank you for letting me chime in. Steve Atchison with Jennie-O. Just to answer the question, from a turkey standpoint, when the COVID hit, you know, the school K-12 brochure, we probably had 60, 65 items there that we're able to sell to distributors, school districts. We refocused that, and we reforecast that down to about 10 items. So instead of selling 60, we sell 10. And it's mostly deli lunch meat, which is an area that we can make a lot of product and ship. So the rest of the items, the other 50 items, kind of went into pause, and the inventory sat there. And thankfully, there's a year shelf life on the items that we have. Majority of our product is frozen. But we don't know really what school's going to look like when it starts back up on August 18th in Texas. And I'm just throwing this out there. A lot of conversation that Jennie-O has to do with Thanksgiving and holiday meals and holiday forecasting. The 3 or 4 products that come out, and we have some inventory, but are school districts going to have the ability to have a holiday meal? And what does that do? That just shows you the curveball, or shows you the uncertainties of what could happen with a couple of those popular products. We haven't really built the inventory that we would normally if this would have been a regular school year. So again, it goes back to forecasting. Are you going to have a holiday meal or not? What are we going to do from a distribution standpoint, a production standpoint? We're in a good situation. We grow our own birds, and we have our raw materials are in good shape. But it does take time to build inventory and build. So it's just it's a sticky spot to be in to do or not to do. So
right.
All information you can get is very critical. School district, distributors, manufacturers, the co-op directors, the communication is the key.
I would agree. And I'm glad like I said, something new always crops up in these sessions, and I haven't even thought about the holiday meals. I'm not really sure schools can afford to have that this year. I can say at my service center, we have determined or decided no events until January 2021. So there is no congregating. None of that is going to happen. And I think we're probably not going to see the parents and grandparents invited for holiday meals like they have in the past. Now I do want Mara to speak to the excess inventory, and how are you tackling that, Mara, at Sysco? And just is it conversation with your districts that are buying from you, and how, what's the plan to get all that moved?
It's like everybody else. We are not unique. It's the same issue, whether it's a distributor or whether it's a vendor or it's a broker. Well, not the brokers, but I'll stick with the vendors. When business as we know it shut down last March, the distributors, and I think I can speak safely for all distributors, were left with enormous amounts of groceries that could not be returned. Schools could not take. And the distributors have been hung with the groceries and the disposal of the groceries and the donating of the groceries and the differentiating what we can keep and hopefully sell with the grocery of the product that we still have. The problem becomes like what everyone else is saying. It's nothing new that we don't know. We need forecast. We all know what we need, but no one has made, and I won't say no one has made a plan. Schools try and make a plan, but they made a plan on Monday, but it's different today, and it'll change again by Friday. So,
I think that is the bad part about this. And I think, when you understand directors are not the decision makers with that, they're waiting for their administration to tell them this is what we're going to do, and that is changing daily. That's a real problem. And I'm hoping some of these directors are sharing some of these conversations with their administration to get a better feel for how complex it is and decisions need to be made.
Well, the other thing that we haven't really even talked about, but I'll bring it up, is, the way I look at it, we're already out of time to get groceries here. We've got schools shipping August, 3 that ship at the end of July, and others a lot that ship the first week of August. So we need groceries here already. But the flip side is, I don't know what to tell merchandising to bring in, because we don't have any information from the schools. But then I have to hear from the merchandising side how they want to be. In years past, they would bring in 2 months worth of groceries for the first couple weeks of school because our orders were that big, and that's just how we always did it. Well, obviously we need to be more conservative this year, because what if school gets closed down 4 days after it starts? So with their conservative approach of what they're wanting to bring in, but we don't know what to bring in, but everything's changed. It's just, nobody knows where to go and what to do.
It is a little nuts. I would agree. So that kind of is a great segue, because Steve with Jennie-O touched on it just a minute ago. And, one of my questions is, has there been that shift in focus of what your company is going to produce because of COVID? Are you now shifting away from the lower volume items and really downsizing on the number of SKUs to be able to produce enough to meet the demand? And I would love for anyone else to chime in on that. Yes, Valerie with Asian Food Solutions.
Yes, hi, thanks, Keri. Actually, we're still, planning to produce our core products pretty much, the same, slightly modified from usual, just because of the inventory that we already have on hand, the inventory that distributors have, and then we'll watch it and kind of keep it, see how things progress in the first month or so of school to see if we need to adjust that. There aren't any items that we don't have available. The biggest key for us, again, is the individually wrapped items. Those are the ones that we don't have the same inventory level of that we need the forecasting, and it's more critical. But we really do still plan to produce our bulk products, and the forecasts that we've gotten and the commodity planners, indicate that there's still going to be a need for those, like previous years.
Right. Okay, great. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that as far as downsizing the number of SKUs? You guys are all, go ahead. Nikki. Sorry, I saw Nikki's hand go up. Sorry, Laura.
No, I was just going to kind of reiterate what Valerie's saying is I think we're going to continue to produce our core items and adjust as we get a little bit farther in when we see what's happening. But to kind of go back a little bit to the conversation we were having earlier, I think what we're trying to do is work really hard with the distributors, and we're going to need to be finding out like what they have on hand so that we can try to help get that out of there and get it moved in an effective way for them, so that then they do have room to bring other stuff in as schools are needing it. But I think our production is going to stay what it is.
Okay, that's good. And I think we are facing a huge amount of communication that has to be stepped up. That is a new norm. It's the new norm. Okay, Nikki, you had raised your hand on this. Go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Laura and Maura had said, and Valerie as well. Really, for us, as you guys probably know, we are a huge supplier of the foam school lunch tray. So when COVID hit, everyone with school closing, they still had to provide a meal. So they chose, a lot of schools went to like foam hinge lid and some other different packaging options. But it's just been interesting because up until COVID hit, the trend was really kind of going away from foam hinge lid containers. And so we have seen that we've had to do a lot of SKU optimization as we've seen a huge increase in demand. Suddenly, it seems like people are less concerned with, we have to have a compostable product or an environmentally friendly packaging, whereas it's just what is the cheapest, the most efficient single-use packaging container that we can use to get the meals out to the kids. So we've done a lot of SKU optimization, trying to look at, so we're not producing foam school lunch trays. We can change those lines over to producing foam hinge lid. But once again, just to echo what everyone else has said, the forecasting is so important because really since March, we've kind of just been going off of no forecasts. And in my opinion, we've handled it very well given what little info we've had. But with school ramping up, it's just, there's so many unknowns and the situation is so dynamic right now. We really are trying to find out, are schools going to serve lunch in the classroom on the school lunch tray or in the cafeteria, or are kids even going to go back to school? I'm out in Houston and I saw that Houston ISD did a survey and only 2/3 of the parents feel comfortable sending their kids to school. So there's just so many unknowns, and so we're really trying to get some information on forecasting and change over as many SKUs as we can so that we can be able to accommodate everyone's demand.
Right. Yeah. And I think, so last week, the Texas Education Agency Commissioner did announce that schools will reopen, and schools do have the option to offer virtual learning. And I think there still are a lot of families out there that want to hold their kids back. There are families that they need their kids to go to school just for mental health reasons. They're working parents, they've got young ones. It's going to be a mix, and we know that. It's going to be a blend of all kinds of things. And so, to be prepared that, yes, you're probably going to see surges of, products being requested that have not been heavily requested in the past because they are less expensive. It's like you mentioned, they're not as worried about the environment. It's like, what's available that we can afford, because they're already being so tasked financially because of COVID. And even as we look at, water has to be offered, but can't get it from the fountain anymore. It's got to be packaged water. So we're about to see a massive push for more, bottled water. It's just craziness. So I would like to move on now to the company-specific questions, and there were several of you that did submit some questions to me, but anyone is like I said, allowed to chime in on any of these questions. I'm gonna go ahead and just start with Valerie with Asian Foods. So Valerie, how will your products perform if there are increased hold times, such as classroom feedings?
We really have a lot of good options for things that will hold well, because we're both the Asian Food Solutions and the Comida Vida products. For Asian Food Solutions, our unbreaded chicken products like teriyaki hold really well. Our breaded items have a heavy breading that even counts for half of a grain, and so they really hold well even with the sauce. We also have shredded meat products that really you can make into whatever you like. I mean, they could be a soup, they could be a casserole. So they're really flexible to go whatever direction you need, if it's something that you're going to be holding for a while.
Right. Now, are any of your products, do they have a cold application?
Yes, actually, almost everything can be also served cold. I mean, like the breaded chicken with sauce, one of my favorite ways to serve it is on an Asian salad. So if you wanted to do any individual portion salads to send out, the shredded meat go well in sandwiches with sauce, without sauce. You could do wraps with the unbreaded or the breaded products. So there's really a lot of cold options too. I mean, I think it's easy to kind of get in a mindset of thinking of it as, just the set way that you generally do it, but they're really flexible on ways they can be served.
Yeah, that's great. And, I talk about our virtual food show, and it'll be 9 co-ops collaborating this year in the state of Texas. And I think that districts are hungry for these new ideas with the old foods, thinking outside that box. I think that is another piece that is, that information is so desired. It needs to be put out there. Great, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and move to Donetta Miller with Rich Chicks. So Donetta, what solutions and resources will Rich Chicks have for schools in response to uncertainty going into the new school year?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Keri. Donetta Miller with Rich Chicks. And kind of bouncing off of what Valerie just said, we have a registered dietitian that's come up with 40 grab-and-go menu ideas, and the grab-and-go handheld and the grab-and-go containers like Nikki P was talking about. So we also offer the complimentary stickers if they want to use their aluminum wrappers, and we'll ship them at no cost to the sites. We also provide our foil bags under cost, and we'll ship those to the sites too to support schools in the fall. We have at-home heating instructions in both English and Spanish. I got a call the other day about a school working on her Smart Snack menu. So I provided her with a list of Smart Snack, or her a la carte menu. And so I provided her a list of Smart Snack compliant products and concepts. And then of course, a couple wrapped and packaged products that we are considering developing just based from the responses of the schools on that survey. So if we do move forward with that, it'll be available commercially as well as commodity processed to help them draw down their pounds, because you know, Keri, the schools are carrying over a significant amount of pounds into the school year. So it's not just what was allocated, it was carryover as well. And Rich Chicks is trying to provide solutions for any menu idea for the fall.
Great. And you know, yes, schools are carrying over their pounds. And I think, you know, while going into school year 21, you know, whatever it's going to look like, I think the worst is to come in the way of banked commodity pounds and new truckloads going into 21, 22. I just don't think we're going to see those orders there, you know, which is going to harm the industry in many ways, because there's still going to be carryover. It's just what it is, you know. All right, Donna, I have one more question for you, and probably many could answer to this question. How are you handling communicating with your customers in light of all these changes, such as a Zoom meeting like this?
It has absolutely changed, Keri. And in that survey that we sent out, we actually had a good participation rate. We had 55% of our customers respond. And one of the questions in there was, how often and what manner do you want us to communicate? Because we want to ensure we're communicating effectively. We're providing these resources and solutions to our customers before school starts, because we get that they don't know what the fall is going to look like. And we want to do so in a manner and a time frame that works best for them.
Great. And I know, I'm sure many of you are sending out surveys and communicating via email and everything else. Thank you, Donetta. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to Klement Vending. So either Courtney or Elizabeth, either one of you can chime in here. So does Hershey's ice cream have resources available to help deliver ice cream outside of the cafeterias? Great question.
Yes, so I think that's one of the key points that the schools be concerned about is ice cream melts. So, you know, most of our clients either have our equipment in place, which have the rolling wheels on it, or they already have their own equipment. That equipment can be, if they're doing classroom, it can be rolled down a hallway. It can be unplugged and set in different distribution points around the school and could easily serve for at least 30 to 45 minutes unplugged. The equipment sits at about -20 degrees, so it'd be fine. We've also ordered about 10,000 cold plates, and we ordered more of these bags. So these bags, which have a Velcro flap here, then we'll have the cold plates in there. Those could be put on a cart and also distributed around the school to help serve. And we are recommending with that, the schools who might normally have 13 ice cream options to maybe pare that down to 4 or 5, and getting rid of, but maybe not offering the stick bars right now. Cups, those are easy, they temper well. Those would be great options for the schools to be able to sell, generate income, and still be able to have a product to move around the school easily.
Right, great. And that, you know, that is another thing that's needed. What are the best products with classroom feeding? You know, I think schools need to know and understand that. And, you know, it is a concern, a la carte, you know, that sustains, you know, food service, and that going away with the added cost is just a double whammy to a district, you know, financially. So you kind of hit on one of well, you actually hit on both of your other questions about the shift away from some of the products. And so does anyone else want to have anything to say about that as well? I know we talked about that earlier, but those of you that are doing a la carte, I love this question because it's something that schools are very concerned about. And, you know, how do they offer a la carte? I mean, I've heard many different ideas around this, but I think downsizing what you offer in the way of a la carte is one of them. You know, maybe a couple of options in, you know, in a classroom or a hallway setting. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to Laura Wisdom with Rich Products. So Laura, what tools does Rich Products offer for menu planning?
Okay, so I have a super creative team. We also employ a number of culinarians across the country that help us as well. We have what we call like a digital menu planning cross merchandise grid. And what that does is you can pick a menu item, and it can be either whether it's for breakfast or for lunch. And you say like you have a flatbread and you compare it with, you know, a chicken and a cheese or whatever it is, and it cross merges with other companies and with other commodities that you might have. So we have that. We also have handling charts that show step-by-step procedures with all of our products and menu concepts. And then we're also building out a library of what we're calling meal kits. So kind of similar to the grid where you would have, you know, one of our items plus somebody else's plus something else, and then you come up with this, you know, final product that is maybe a grab and go kind of thing. So, and then along that line, I'll also mention that we try to partner really well with not only the distributors as to what they have in stock with like bags or containers or things like that, but somebody like Pactiv, we're more than happy to find you know, ways to package our items or help districts to figure out how to come up with solutions that they're not going to be serving on a tray that they may have to either send home or to a classroom. So those are some of the tools that we have. And we also are coming out with some new videos, short clip videos with our chefs showing either new items or old items and how to easily handle those, as well as some bigger, longer things that will go for the virtual food shows that will be coming up. So
great. And send me your videos. I want them. I'm building my webpage. So anyone who has that, send it to me. Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I am now going to move on to Nikki with Pactiv. A couple questions for Nikki. So does Pactiv recommend specific packaging for certain food serving scenarios?
So the great thing about Pactiv is we are the largest food packaging manufacturer. So we really have a solution for everything. Which is really great with everything being so dynamic. We do have options for you guys. So if you choose to serve your lunches in the classroom, we have ways, you know, we have containers that we can steer you towards, and portion cups and different offerings. Whereas if you end up having, you know, a virtual classroom a couple of days a week and you're sending the lunches home, we also have packaging options for that as well.
So Nikki, does your company have like a point of sale sheet or a flyer that might break it down into categories such as these packages are, you know, containers would be great for in classroom. These are better served in a cafeteria setting.
Yes, we do have a sheet with like 6 or 7 items and the different SKU numbers, the case pack, and a picture of all the different options. Because some of the items are, like I said, things that, you know, traditionally schools haven't used before. So it's nice to be able to show someone something and have a picture and see it in use.
Yes, I would agree. I'm a visual person. I know many people are. All right. And second question is, how has Pactiv continued to innovate and stay at the forefront of packaging trends during COVID?
So we've been really fortunate. The person that owns our company, as soon as Pactiv was deemed an essential business, instead of throttling back, we were able to actually get more funding for items like, you know, individually wrapped cutlery or straws that we were seeing a huge increase in demand for. We've also, all my colleagues and myself have been a part of teams around the U.S. So we've been, you know, in close partnership with our distributors and our school districts, seeing what the trends are right now in the marketplace, and then going back and looking at our product line and saying, okay, well, we do have this, but maybe if we put vents in this container, we can keep the food crispy, you know, and prolong the life of the food. So that's something that we've done. We've really been continually innovating, whether it's through, kind of various think tanks or new product development. And we've also we're recently launching something called the VPA, which is going to be our virtual packaging assistant, which is essentially just Pactiv in your pocket. It's an app. You can download it on your phone or your tablet, Apple, Android, and it goes through a series of questions, what you're planning on serving, is it important to have things individually wrapped? Do you want to keep foods crispy? Are you serving sauces? Various.
So it's kind of self-driven survey that gets them to the answer, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very fun.
We think that'll be really helpful because everyone can download that. Your operators, the people at the schools. So it kind of is something right at your fingertips where you don't have to plow through the website and look at a million different products.
That's great. And, we are hearing there is probably going to be a pretty good shortage on the plastic, where the cutlery, can't say that word this morning, but no one's really talking about chopsticks in the shortage. So I'm just saying, people, this could be an alternate option for giving the kids. Kids love chopsticks. I'm just saying, pointing these things out.
Creative.
Thank you, Nikki. So I'm going to go ahead and move to Lisa, and then I've got Shearer Foods and Brookwood Farms. I have a couple of questions, but Lisa with Perdue Farms. And I think you did comment already that not really, individually packaged foods is what Perdue does, but are there any future plans, and if so, which ones?
No, at this point, we don't have any individually wrapped products. But what we do offer is inside of the case, we do have the foil line wrappers or the serving boxes with our Clux Deluxe items. So these are available inside of the case. They come with the product, so you don't have to outsource, any type of packaging for that. So that makes it a lot handier as well. But I'm going to kind of go with what some other people have said. Our products can be served cold. They work great on salads. I've also bundled them with some other products. So like say chicken and waffles, which is really big. And I've, used the Pactiv containers to do that with. So it's a nice grab and go type product. So you can utilize our product in some, wrapped or bundled menu items that are, really quick grab and go items.
Great. Yes. I would agree about the chicken and waffles. Hot or cold, it's all good. And I think, that really that is the easiest way to include packaging, within, the bulk packaged foods, because to try to individually package, we've heard in the past, just even getting machines to do that. There's been a delay in some companies just trying to get the machines in place. So, I think anything that helps the schools do this on their own is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, I just don't see Perdue, investing in, IW. We just don't have the outsource to, put it together with any bread component or something like that. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
Not at this time.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. All right. And so I'm going to go ahead and move on to, let's see, Shearer Foods. Catherine. I couldn't think of your name all of a sudden. So sorry. So what is Shearer Foods offering right now for immediate needs? And even though we're really kind of starting the new school year, July 1 kind of marks that for everyone, that will be available throughout the entire upcoming school year.
Thank you for the question. Again, this is Catherine Bridgman with Shearer Foods. We were formerly called Barrel of Fun Snack Foods, for those of you that remember our branding in the Barrel of Fun name. So what are we serving right now is we do have a lot of IW items, and we're different from a lot of the other panelists that our item is dry, never frozen, never refrigerated. So we kind of are in that sweet spot of it's IW. You could get a 1 ounce equals 1 bread, a 1.5 ounce equals 1.5 breads. You could get a 2 bread. We also do bulk. So kind of what we're focusing on right now is all of our items are available that have always been available. We also have our a la carte items available, our popcorns and our cheese balls, those type of things. So we're full line right now, and that is something I kind of called out earlier, that we normally do close down for the summer, but with all of the crazy of COVID, right, and all of our different needs, we've kept all of our items available, and they will be available as we go into the school year, especially seeing some school years shift back, some school years possibly shifting up. We do have everything available right now with the Exhibit A's, product formulation sheets, as well as the summer food program sheets.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, and I think it's, when I think about what schools need going forward, even though we're right on top of it and maybe slightly behind, you know, are just new ideas with the old foods, and how are they going to move forward with so many not having decisions made yet. But last but not least, Ashley with Brookwood Farms. And then I've got one last question for the group. So Ashley, I know you've already kind of touched on one of your questions about what is needed most from the districts right now. And I think everyone's saying it, forecasting. I mean, that is just, you know, the one thing that everyone needs. But what does Brookwood Farms offer in the way of heating and holding instructions, especially if they're going to serve like grab and go sandwiches or heat at home sandwiches?
Great question, Keri. And this is Ashley with Brookwood. So unfortunately, we don't offer a IW item at this time. We are only a bulk processor. But if the district was to make barbecue sandwiches at their own facility, we do have holding documents and requirements there that we could send out, as well as if they were going to make a grab and go or maybe a heat at home option. We do have heating instructions that they can send out with the item for that virtual learning day. And I'll also note that like many of the other vendors on here, our items do come in fully cooked. So they can be formulated into a sandwich or into a heat at home option at that thaw state. So it'll kind of skip a step there.
Okay, great. Thank you. So anyone else have any comments they would like to make about any of the questions? No? So I would like to ask the group, and any of you can answer to this, really, what is your biggest concern with the upcoming school year? And anyone, please? Yes, Elizabeth with Hershey. I'll get to you, Ashley.
I know it may be an ice cream company, but I think it's everyone's will kind of agree with this statement, forecasting. And when we say just the forecasting, it's not because we're having issues, but if everybody orders at the exact same time, then we'll all have issues, regardless of what the product is. So we may have plenty of product right now, whether it is at the distributor or in, you know, the warehouse, but if you all order it, and let's be optimistic and say school starts back as normal, which we know it won't, but if it does, we don't have enough product because, like Steve said earlier, we've backed off on what we're going to produce. So if everybody orders juice rush that counts as half a cup of fruit, I'm not going to have that available to you guys. That's why we want the forecasting. That's why we need it, because then we can get with Maura and say, this is what we have in stock and this is what we need to send you.
And I like that. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to kind of put this to Maura as well. I mean, is there a concern with distributors that, you know, forecasting hasn't been done to a level that's really going to meet the demand of those opening large orders? And is there a concern that there won't be enough items to even sub for food that hasn't come in yet because of lack of forecasting? There you go. That's a loaded question.
Absolutely. We have received forecasting from, I'm going to say 30% only of our customers. But we're moving forward. I don't know where that is or where we're going or how we're getting there. But one thing I did want to bring up that I'm surprised, no, it hasn't been a topic today, is lead times, vendor lead times, which and this is really for the schools that are out there listening in, because we all ask a vendor what their lead time is, and somebody will say, well, it's 14 days or it's 21 days or whatever the days are, which is fine. But I think the piece to that has been missing in the conversation is that distributors have buying site, and this isn't just a Sysco North Texas, it's, I think all distributors have buying cycles. So they might not buy from vendor A they might buy from vendor A every week. So it's easy to get into the cycle and get in the 14-day lead time. They might buy from vendor B, they're only buy from them every other week. So you have to wait and get into that cycle. It might be a vendor that you only buy from once a month. And we just ordered from them last week. So it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks before we even get to place the order. So I think that needs just to be clarified for the schools when they are talking to manufacturers and vendors and brokers about, well, the lead time's only 14 days. Well, it is, but it isn't.
Right, because
and that plays a huge factor.
That is a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. And I've got Steve raising his hand over here with Jennie-O. You have a comment about this, Steve?
Yeah, I agree with what Maura is saying. That lead time is important to everyone, school district, distributor, manufacturers. I think from the Jennie-O standpoint and my standpoint, to answer your question, what concerns us the most is just the general uncertainty of this situation. It's so fluid, it moves and changes so rapidly. I think we're all pretty buttoned down people. We're all pretty organized. We like to be organized. We like to do a planner. We like to get forecasting. We like to look at the numbers. And those numbers change as the situation changes. And when that happens, it's a stress for all of us in this business. And that's, I think, my biggest concern is, what's the change going to be come August 1st? What's the change going to be September 1st? And the uncertainty of that doesn't allow us to get organized. And that's a concern for us. How quickly we can react to that will be how successful we will all become. You know, certain companies will have what it takes to be successful, be it the packaging or be it the product or be it the distribution level. So to answer your question, us from Jennie-O is, we're just really concerned about the uncertainty for the student, for the school food service director, for the district, for the distributors, and on it goes. So there's my answer.
No, that's a great answer. And I would agree with all of that, you know, and I think that, you know, everyone in the industry, I mean, it is fluid, you know, it is ever changing almost on a daily basis, it seems. And I totally agree with all that. And I think that's just one of those things where it has to be accepted. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to bend on a moment's notice and just accept that if you didn't get that product in, you got something else, you're gonna have to make it work, you know, and it's just the nature of the beast, and it's horrible. We won't disagree with that, but yeah. Anyone else have a comment about, yeah, oh, sorry, Ashley, I've completely sidestepped you, did not mean to. Go ahead.
Well, I just think it's important to note, you know, this whole time, you know, obviously we're talking about schools, but a lot of the manufacturers and the distributor on this call services restaurants and other avenues where food and supplies go. So the perfect storm could be this fall that, you know, schools open up and ADP is higher than we think, as well as all of these restaurants start opening up with higher and higher percentages of capacity. And then that is a whole nother stress element on supply. So I think it's really important, you know, to talk about that too, and to keep that in the back of your mind. It is in the back of my mind as a supplier and a manufacturer. And it's just another note that, you know, if you're a school district and you know what you need, please communicate that.
Yes. Well, and I think, you know, sadly here in Texas, I see we reopen and we're already closing things down again. You know, I mean, we're seeing, you know, the bars and bars being closed, restaurants being dropped back down to 50% capacity. I'm not sure we're going forward anytime soon. You know, I think we need to have some kind of a even keeled situation before we go anywhere up in that regard. But, you know, there is that, you know, I always think about it as, you know, the whip going out, you see the big, you know, wave, and then there's that lull, and then you got to catch up. Just as Steve discussed earlier, and, you know, you've got to grow the food before you can produce it and get it to the schools. So I think that, you know, we're not done with the roller coaster ride in regard to that. I mean, we're already seeing that in, you know, with the pigs, where I guess they, you know, get too big to be taken through whatever it is. And so they euthanized a lot of them, and now they're waiting. So we're having a shortage, you know, but it's, yeah, very interesting for sure. Any other comments or insights anyone wants to share? Yes, Dan, I was thinking I haven't heard from you in a while. Go ahead with Cloverdale.
No, that's fine. What keeps me up at night is what could happen to protein prices. We built product before the peak to get us through probably into October based on usages. And boy, if COVID strikes more plants and protein prices spike, that's what keeps me up at night. And you know, there's a shortage, and right, I mean, there's a lot of beef out in the hoof right now. They're very heavy, but hopefully I'm looking for trim to be, you know, in better pricing, you know, after this summertime spike. But as others have indicated, that restaurants are opening. So the food service side is also, the demand is going to start nipping away at, or might keep protein prices up. So just wanted to add that.
No, that's good that you did. I mean, it is a concern, you know, we have already seen, or at least I have seen on my bid, some of the non-food items, especially safety type items, you know, the gloves and anything else, that prices are just off the charts, spiking, you know. And so I think that in the protein side, that is a big concern. Absolutely. Any other comments on this?
Keri, it's Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth, I was getting ready to ask you, have any questions that have come in?
No questions, but just some specific comments, and maybe one for Maura, just to confirm that schools are hearing that lead times have increased from 2 to 4 weeks. Is that more the normal lead time now?
Oh yeah, lead times are, yes. What we used to get in 2 or 3 weeks is now taking 3 to 5 weeks. And don't forget, we don't get our orders 100% as ordered anymore either, just due to the demand. The shortages are astronomical.
Okay, great. And then another comment was schools, while they're hearing some of the panelists say that they have core products that they're making, it would be great if we could get a list of core products from each of the manufacturers. So I think that's something Keri will probably handle internally.
I think that's something that the co-op coordinators could certainly ask of the awarded manufacturers and processors of what, you know, that, as I talked about, that kind of that real-time data, or if there are products they're not going to produce. And I haven't heard from many, but a few, you know, downsizing SKUs.
Okay. And then just one more comment too. Schools are saying that they're also willing to order what's currently at the distributor if they just knew what was available. Probably another thing that co-ops internally can handle for them.
I think so, yes, absolutely. Again, it kind of falls back to that real-time data. What is at the distributorship right now and readily available, so that you're not trying to order something that they don't have and possibly getting sub that product anyway. That's the way I kind of see that going down.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Any other? Oh, okay. All right. Well, that is all I have, unless anyone has anything else that they maybe felt was not discussed or overlooked. But great conversation today. I want to thank all the panelists for taking the time in this somewhat holiday week, July 4th facing us. Probably feel very different this year, but I do appreciate all your expertise and insights. I know it's been very beneficial to those attending. And they're learning great things from these sessions. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Keri.
Thank you,
Thank you
Keri.
very much, guys.
Yeah, and
Thank
I
y'all.
will thank you. Before you guys
Bye.
sign off, I will leave the chat panel open for another 15 minutes. As I know many want to thank you guys as well. And if anyone has a question, if you want to watch that, but I will stop the recording. So I just want to say thanks for attending, everyone, and thanks for being here.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Next time.